This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Good afternoon, ladies and gents. What's going on? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily for a Wednesday afternoon here in Peg City. Andrew Paterson with you, along with Michael Remis. And, we got a great show for you coming up. NHL Trade Deadline coming up on Monday. What a great day to have TSN's insider Frank Seravalli join us. We'll discuss the latest on his trade bait board, some of the teams that intrigue him the most, and find out what he's hearing from Jetland as far as Kevin Cheveldayoff's quest to maybe bolster the Winnipeg Jet blue line heading into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Lots of scuttlebutt about the Canadian Football League and, of course, the Jets heading to Montreal to take on the Habs. We will go to Montreal and hook up with our good friend Moe Khan, who joined us regularly back on Pembina Highway. Moe working with TSN 690 and doing so many other things in the Montreal market. Love talking to Moe. He'll join us coming up at about 1:40. And then to finish off our Masters previews, we get to some final picks with Geoff Fienberg coming up at 2 o'clock today on the program. So lots to get to and lots to discuss right off the top. Let's welcome in Michael Remis to the program. And as always, thank our great sponsors, Not Autocorp, Boston Pizza, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Royal Sports, Breezy Bend, Cool Bet, and Aikens Lake. Remo, what's going on? How are you today, my friend?
Doing great, Huss. Feeling good. Weather's good. I'm wearing the Nikes outside. So everything's great. We got a great weekend. We just looked at the Jets schedule. Great weekend of 6 p.m. starts. If you didn't like the 9 p.m. starts, well, you're in luck. Bunch of, 5 straight games starting at 6 p.m. Great time if you're into the 6 p.m. starts. But we actually had some Jets news. You know, I talked yesterday how everything's great. The lineup hasn't really changed. The team's playing well. Nothing to be upset about. But we were dealt a bit of a I don't want to say breaking news, but yeah, we had some news right before we went on the air about the Jets captain.
Yeah, Blake Wheeler not going with the club on the trip out to Montreal, out east. And as Michael mentioned, 5 games beginning tomorrow night out east, Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto. And from Paul Maurice today, it sounds like, they're considering him out indefinitely until more is known. He will not travel with the Jets out east. Paul Maurice says they're investigating a possible concussion. And that is concerning. And I've been hitting my head every time we talk about this, trying to touch wood. And I'm not sure whether it's the lack of travel or the schedule or what it is. But, the Jets and many other teams this year, have seemed to be quite fortunate when it comes to injuries, and the Jets have been that. Maurice talked about talking with the lights of Jansen Harkins, Sammy Niku in a practice earlier this week, telling the guys to hang in there in that, in a normal year, you would have thought that there would have been some opportunity just through attrition to get these guys in the lineup, and that really hasn't been the case. But I'll tell you what, Remis, I mean, if you talk about players in the Winnipeg Jet lineup, certainly based on history, the least likely guy to be out of the lineup is Captain Blake Wheeler. He is the Iron Man of the Winnipeg Jets and probably would be the NHL Iron Man if they didn't go back to that 2017-18 season and sit Wheeler out in the final game of the season because the team had clinched the playoffs. By my count, Blake Wheeler has not missed a game due to injury since the 2014-2015 season when he missed 3 games, and he also missed 2 games in the initial year, 11-12. So that's over the course of 10 years. That's missing 6 games, and one of them was, a healthy scratch to rest him up for the playoffs. So, if there's been one consistent piece in this lineup, literally since day one, it's number 26, the guy wearing the C. And, I know there was a lot of talk about Wheeler playing hurt at the beginning of the season. I think it was quite obvious that he was. But you look at the impact he had right off the start of the game last week, and some grit quality starts in important games for the Jets, really led by Wheeler. This is bad news for the Winnipeg Jets, to say the least. Listen, for Jensen Harkins, it's great, and we'll talk about the lines and the way things looked at practice in a minute. But we're already seeing people in the chat, people tweeting us, even more angry about the BS hit that Brady Tkachuk put on Blake Wheeler in the Ottawa game earlier this week. A lot of people don't like those reverse hits to begin with, and I thought you described it quite well in the tweet just a few minutes ago, Remis. That was something that we might see in Tampa at WrestleMania on Sunday. Certainly doesn't belong in hockey. It was a cheap hit. He got the elbow up. You saw the jersey burn on Wheeler's the cheek of his face, and now apparently there's some concern as to the captain's status going forward. So certainly not good news for the Winnipeg Jets. They had out. The one, I guess, comforting thing is the team has, for all intents and purposes, got a playoff spot wrapped up. So if there was ever a time in Blake Wheeler's career when maybe a little bit of rest could really help him, they know he's going to be a big, important piece for them coming up in the playoffs.
Yeah, hold on. Sorry, I'm reading the chat here. Yeah, and I mentioned that on Twitter. I posted the video of the hit on my Twitter account, Remis. It's if you don't know how to spell it, it's under my name here on the YouTube channel. But yeah, it looks like a flying elbow. I don't know who pulls that. I think Razor Ramon used to pull that off all the time. Do an Irish whip, come out with the flying elbow. And Kevin Sawyer talked about it on the broadcast. These quote reverse hits. Like if you're gonna do it, if your guy's coming towards you, I mean, don't be afraid. Just brace yourself and give a little pushback. This is Brady Tkachuk not even looking at where he's going and just flailing his body around. Very dangerous play. Cracks Blake Wheeler in the face. Totally unnecessary. And it's not like Blake Wheeler is a guy who's gonna come and crush him. Although I did a quick Google search or a quick Twitter search. Wheeler's fought both of the Tkachuks, Brady and Matthew, in the past year. He fought Brady last year in February. Now that's over a year ago, I guess now. And Matthew in August in the playoffs after he took out Mark Scheifele. I don't know if there's going to be any retaliation or anything. Someone was asking about it in chat. I said, look, you don't want to play into the Tkachuks game. They're trying to get under your skin. Just go on the power play and score some goals. And the Jets beat down on Ottawa. But I think you're maybe circle the calendar, on this upcoming road trip when the Jets go up against Ottawa, because, and I don't know, I tweeted, I'm like, is player safety going to look at this? Maybe they didn't before, but now that Wheeler's out with a concussion, it's clearly a hit to the head. It's clearly, I don't think that's a hockey play, a flying elbow like that. As I said, it's a UFC move or professional wrestling, and I got the belt back here for that.
It is WrestleMania week. Yeah, maybe Brady was getting a little too into the excitement before the two-night event in Tampa Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, I think so, but I don't think that we know player safety, how inconsistent they are, so I'm not expecting them to now look at it, but maybe they should. Maybe there should be some kind of league rule, because a lot of people are doing these type of hits and people are getting hurt from them.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say a lot of people are doing it.
Sorry.
It's more the rats of the league that are doing it, but it's funny that two of the guys that do that have the same last name, and one is Brady and one is Matthew, the Tkachuk brothers. Now, listen, I mean, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here, because, but to me, this is not just any player. I mean, Blake Wheeler, as I just kind of laid out, does not miss games. He simply is a guy that is there night in and night out, leading the way for the Winnipeg Jets. And I know some people are saying, oh, geez, they've had a lot of even 5-5 goals scored against them. And, hey, there's no doubt about it. This team needs to be better, and I think they've been trending better. And certainly the way Wheeler played. I mean, ask Pierre-Luc Dubois if he thought it was important that Blake Wheeler was in the game against Ottawa. He'll tell you. So, listen, Wheeler playing healthy and playing at his best is important for the Winnipeg Jets. And, the one silver lining of this, as I mentioned, the fact that the Jets have earned themselves a position where they're comfortably in a playoff spot. Calgary is dead. Vancouver is, well, obviously dealing. I don't want to make a joke like that with Vancouver because of what they're dealing right now with COVID, but it's not happening for the Canucks, and needless to say, the Ottawa Senators won't be a playoff team. So in a lot of ways, both for the head coach and the general manager, they're essentially looking at these next, 17 games to get this team ready, primed, and at their best come playoff time. And, if that means Blake Wheeler's going to miss a couple weeks, or, well, hopefully that would be it, I think they'll do that. And listen, it's a great opportunity for Jansen Harkins to finally get into the lineup, Remis. And, as unfortunate it is when you have your captain get hurt, there are other guys that will get the opportunity to step up. In this case, again, it's Andrew Kopp who'll move up to that second line. And for Jansen Harkins, who's been out of the lineup patiently waiting his opportunity to get back in, he'll have a lot of energy in that game tomorrow against the Montreal Canadiens when he'll be on that line with Thompson and Lewis. So here's the way things look. Connor, Scheifele, and Ehlers will be the Jets' top line. Although Maurice said he still may yet play with these. I guess we can't say that this is... I think it's a safe bet that things will start this way. We'll see how things go. And then Paul Stastny, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Andrew Kopp on the second line. Matthew Perreault certainly, I think, has earned with his play of the last couple months the chance to move up to play with Lowry and Appleton. Don't think that line will miss a beat very much. And then it's Jansen Harkins that gets in with Nate Thompson and Trevor Lewis. I for one, we talked a lot about Jansen Harkins and the way I thought, let everybody know that he was an NHL player last year. And the Jets would tell you the same thing. It's just that it's been a very busy... it's been a very healthy lineup and one that, it's been tough to crack right now. So we'll see what Jansen Harkins can do tomorrow in Montreal and foreseeably for the next little while with Blake Wheeler on the shelf. But I'm already feeling the vitriol from Jets fans about this hit. People were mad enough that it happened, but it didn't look like it was too big of a deal. You can get over it. But when all of a sudden your captain's out, potentially for an extended period of time with the uncertainty of a concussion, I'm sure the fans are probably echoing the feeling of the organization right now, not happy at all that the captain has been injured thanks to that hit.
Yeah, I think you have to be livid. And it's funny how the same stuff keeps happening with the same guys. Matthew Tkachuk with the hit on Scheifele, skate clips the foot, intentional or not. And then Brady, again, going for, I guess he sees Wheeler coming. Wheeler tries to get out of the way. Brady's not even looking. He's, going. He's just flying in his body all over. He's like, whoa, and clips him in the face. He's got a cut immediately. He did play a bit after, so maybe the next day wasn't feeling great, and now he's out. And we talked about Blake Wheeler, how he doesn't miss a game. I mean, it's not like he's never had a close call. I mean, it was mentioned in chat. He went body first into a post one time, was totally fine. He's had a puck in the throat and barely missed any time.
Hey, man, I was in Dallas. I was in Dallas in that game, 5 years ago. He almost got impaled on the bench. And, from the press box watching that scene, I mean, I was concerned, like seriously concerned for his well-being. Not just like, oh, can he finish the game? Can he play going forward? But, I mean, it looked like a devastating injury. The Jets were... hanging on their last hopes of playoff spot. And then, 2 minutes later, Blake Wheeler's back out there. So if there's one thing that he's shown, he'll put it all on the line for the hockey club. And, the fact that he's not in there, I think speaks more than if it was just, somebody else that they were holding out for a little bit because of the fact that he really has been the Iron Man of this franchise going on 10 years. Great to see everybody in the chat right now fired up early and people ready to go with all this news about Blake Wheeler. The Godfather, Mitch, is here. I'm old school, all caps. Guys do this because there is no accountability or fear of retaliation. I'm not talking about Wheeler fighting him. He needs to answer to a Lowry or a Stanley. Knowing Paul Maurice and knowing the way the Winnipeg Jets feel about their captain, Remis, I would be shocked if that did not happen, considering what we've learned today when these two teams get back together in Ottawa coming up next Monday.
Yeah, it reminds me of, past times where Jets have stood up after a dirty hit. I do remember Wheeler fighting Malkin at MTS Center after Malkin, knocked Wheeler out with a big hit. Wheeler fought, as I said,
that was an amazing the Wheeler Malkin fight. And again, I think most people that have heard me for a long time, I'm not a big fighting guy. I listen, I understand that it happens sometimes. I hate the scripted, the enforcers deciding that they're gonna, go and do it. But that one was it was just an incredible feeling in the building. I mean, it was different than a lot of other ones when you have two sort of star players like that. And listen, I respect Wheeler's toughness. I don't think he's really a great fighter, and he's too important to the team to be doing that. And, it goes back to the situation the Jets were in the bubble when he played, when he ended up fighting Matthew Tkachuk and, to be honest, not doing particularly well. That, if you're going to have guys getting retribution or retaliation, do it with your best fighters, the guys that can actually do that. And that, I think, is what Mitch is getting to with a guy like Adam Lowry, who, has fought Ryan Reeves, has stepped up against some of the bigger dudes. And, of course, Logan Stanley, who had his first scrap earlier, I guess last month. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was another one or two in his future, potentially against Brady Tkachuk coming up in Ottawa.
Yeah, I don't know. Will it be Logan Stanley? Will it be Adam Lowry? Wheeler has stood up in the past. I think something's gonna happen. I'm not sure what. I mean, hopefully, I know it is sometimes, Huss, it is kind of crazy to me that fighting is still allowed in the NHL. I mean, when you have like a mismatch, like, Logan Stanley against Brady Tkachuk, like, would that fight even be allowed? Like, two guys not even in the same weight class in a sanctioned UFC, and you have this bare knuckle hockey fighting. It just seems ridiculous. And look, sometimes I'm there, I'm enjoying it. But at the same time, you do have to look back and be like, this is the only sport that does it. It is kind of insane.
Well, it is. But again, at times there's a level of, and it's just sort of ingrained in the game. What can you say? Something happens. There is an element of retaliation and retribution that is inherent to hockey. And I think the leagues have done a good job with getting a lot of the nonsense out of the game. And for the most part, you're seeing, real legitimate emotion creating these events. I mean, I've said for a long time, I'd have no problem if fighting was just a game misconduct. If you really want to fight that badly, do it, but you're probably not coming back to the game. But listen, that's not even a conversation. That won't be happening going forward. And we have seen fighting up considerably this year. And to me, Reem, the biggest reason for that, of course, is the schedule. I mean, with the familiarity of these teams, they say familiarity breeds contempt. When you're playing teams 2, 3, and 4 times in a row, it is like a little mini playoff series. You get these anger rivalries, and you get the opportunity to get guys back very quickly as opposed to having to sit on something for a long time. So maybe I think that's all played into it. It's not like the Jets have been throwing down all year long. They have had a few scraps, but I have a feeling this is a little different. If Blake Wheeler's out for any extended period of time due to what's perceived as a cheap shot by Brady Tkachuk, best believe somebody on the Winnipeg Jets will be knocking on his door.
Oh yeah, we've seen that in the past from them, and their team has tremendous respect for Blake Wheeler. He's been a Jet, since day one of the franchise. I saw someone in chat saying, where does Wheeler rank all time among Jets? That's 1.0 and 2.0, and you look at the points leaders. And games played, well, he's definitely up there. I mean, he's the captain, means a lot to the city, spends his time here. He's got kids that go to school here as well, so big part of the community. So I think someone will stand up for him. I wonder how it's going to go down, but it's definitely warranted here.
Yeah, lots of people commenting in on the chat on this. Marshall Patterson, what up, Marsh? Nate Thompson, mark my words, will deal with Brady. And hey, Todd Fertani, what's going on, Todd? Wheeler only fights because of his heart and character, not his role, but he does it. I agreed with that. Mad respect for the captain. I mean, yeah, you have to respect people, someone doing it. It doesn't change the fact that, Wheeler is probably best. And again, this isn't really about Wheeler fighting because he was just the victim of a cheap shot, but he has been a guy that in the past has been the one to stand up. Sort of leading the way. I don't think that is needed anymore with the makeup of this roster of the Winnipeg Jets right now. Of course, all this talk about Jets in Ottawa, the Jets are going to be playing against Montreal, Reem. We're going to talk to Moe Khan in Montreal a little bit later on in the program about this. And the Habs, for their part, have their own injury issues. Sounds like Jake Allen's going to be the guy for these back-to-back games coming up with Carey Price out. But the big news, Brendan Gallagher could be out up to 6 weeks for the Montreal Canadiens. And, again, if you're going to have a bad injury or you're going to have something like this, if you're one of these top 4 teams, in some ways, maybe it's more fortuitous to have it happen now because you want players like Gallagher and Wheeler to be there ready for the playoffs. Although, you know what, looking at the calendar, if Gallagher is going to be out a full 6 weeks, that in all likelihood will take them into the first round of the playoffs, despite the fact that Montreal is safe and, you know, probably will handily make the postseason, you know, without having Brendan Gallagher. But some interesting things going on with the Habs. And, you know, for the Jets side, this is really the first significant injury we've talked about. And listen, I don't want to demean Nate Beaulieu because he was a regular under Paul Maurice going there, but I think we knew there were some other guys battling. And, you know, in the big picture, your sixth defenseman isn't quite the same as your captain, a power play cog, and a guy that's consistently playing in the top six. But the Jets will deal that. Jansen Harkins gets the opportunity. But for Montreal, it's probably a good thing that the urgency isn't quite there for the Habs, either or the Jets really needing these points to make the playoffs, as much as they would absolutely love to get in and really press the Toronto Maple Leafs for that top spot in the North.
Yeah, it was funny. I was reading a tweet from Darren Haynes, who we had on from Calgary before, and he was just saying how unbelievable it is that Calgary is totally out of it, and there's so many games left. So yeah, I think the playoffs in the North definitely set. The Jets, they did tinker with some new lines without Wheeler at practice today. Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers staying together. Stasny still on the left with Dubois in the middle. Andrew Kopp is the one who moves up. Matthew Perreault then moves up to play with Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton. And I think Matthew Perreault, he deserves that additional ice time. He's been excellent in his fourth line role. And then Jansen Harkins comes in, playing with Thompson and Lewis. And those guys, I think, have been solid too. And I kind of like having the young guy Harkins with the two veterans. And Christian Vesalainen was recalled from the Moose to the taxi squad. So he's available if needed.
Excellent. Well, in the, outside of all this talk of the day with Blake Wheeler's injury and not traveling with the team, of course, there is the trade deadline coming up. And, Reem, why don't you fire a tweet out that Frank is just about good to go? I'll quickly mention, shout out to Nick and Nikki DQ and everybody that took advantage of Nick's generous offer on that buy one, get one Blizzards after the Jets win. Had a lot of great tweets from our Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners supporting DQ at DQ Niverville, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's, and of course the flagship at DQ Northgate. And a big thanks to Royal Sports. Of course, I'm not too sure how much longer everything's going to be open, if we know what's going on in some of the other provinces around the country. But we certainly will be spending a lot of time outside. And if you want to get ready for spring and for summer, Royals got you covered. Soccer, baseball, running gear, bikes coming in daily despite a real worldwide bicycle shortage. And I'm going to start playing disc golf. They've got incredible selection of disc golf stuff. We may even have a Winnipeg Sports Talk open at some point. But anyways, get ready for spring. Pop by and see our great sponsors at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway, 650 in EK. All right, I've been looking forward to this all week. You know him well, our good friend TSN hockey insider Frank Seravalli has been working the trade bait board and getting ready for Monday. Frank, great to see you. Hey, before we even talk about all the important things on the docket, love to see you got the green shirt on right now. Just a sad day yesterday. We always think back to that incredible tragedy in Humboldt that, I mean, you thinking back, man, you spent a lot of time there, if I'm not mistaken, you and Rashog working on all of the aftermath of one of the worst tragedies in Canadian history.
Yeah, I did. And I'm glad to wear the green shirt day. I'm actually going to pull the mic back just so everyone can see it. Just an incredible outpouring of support for the Boulay family, the Logan Boulay effect. Really proud to wear the green shirt today as we urge everyone to sign their organ donor card and get out there and get on the list. If you pass away, you don't need your organs anymore. So get them to someone who does. And that's the point. Logan Boulay did an incredible job with that. Still, hits me right in my core when you think about the fact that he had just signed his card just a couple weeks before the accident. And you're right. The anniversary passing yesterday, I actually didn't even tweet about it because I just, I don't know that I can find the right words. And it's weird because you don't even necessarily look at the calendar, but having, been there maybe 12 hours after the accident, you start to get a little bit of a pit in your stomach as the calendar gets to like mid-March and you start to inch closer. Honestly, didn't even know that, April was coming. Obviously you have an idea, but it never leaves you. I'll tell you that. And I think about those kids and those families, just some of the most incredible people you'd ever want to meet.
Yeah, and we did hear. I mean, that sounds like the tribute and the legacy of that team and everyone, both that was lost or that was in the accident, that will be forever linked to the Humboldt Broncos, will be memorialized in something that will live forever in that community. But I imagine, Frank, I mean, in your career, I mean, you've covered some incredible stories, been all around the world doing this. That must stand out. It just in a whole nother level of stories, both from a journalistic perspective, but also from a human perspective, because it didn't matter where you were, but especially being in and around in Humboldt, being that close to it, it affects you and it stays with you, as you mentioned.
It does. And you never really forget the names and faces and the people that you met. The number one lesson or first thing they teach you in journalism school is, don't get too close to the people that you're covering, remain impartial. And I think the thing that really struck me, there's so many things, but one is just, long after we were leaving, with our coverage, all these TV camera trucks to send into Humboldt. And, after 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, they kind of all start to peel out. And these incredible people in that community are left to pick up the pieces. And so that's one of the first things, you think about is, you come into their town, their community as a stranger. And instead of this, icy glare that I was kind of expecting to get, covering this unspeakable story, they were so welcoming, and it, that just kind of added to it. And I think kind of, if there is a nice thing, I've been able to stay in touch with some people there. I talked to their assistant coach, Chris Beaudry. I don't think a week or two goes by that, he's, one of us isn't firing off a text to the other, or getting on the phone and connecting. And then, I had a chance to go back at the 1 year anniversary and went to Allen, Saskatchewan to see the family of their captain, Logan Schatz, and sit at their kitchen table for a few hours with them talking about their son. Long after we've left and long after we've covered this story, these people are carrying that with them for the rest of their lives. And that's something that you can't really fully comprehend and wrap your brain around as much as you try.
Frank Seravalli, TSN Insider, is with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Frank, let's move on to the trade bait board. I know it's been keeping you very busy this last little while. Listen, our viewers, first and foremost, concerned about the Winnipeg Jets. We know that there has been interest on adding to the blue line. What can you tell us about what you're hearing regarding what Kevin Cheveldayoff is up to, as well as the market for defensemen, with teams like Nashville going on a bit of a run and getting right back into the playoffs? We talked a lot about Ekholm. Is he even still on the market?
Yeah, I don't really get the sense that he is. I mean, he's still on our trade bait board because you can never say never. And I do think that David Poile is going to be listening right until the end. And if someone can knock his socks off with an offer that makes sense, obviously he's going to be traded. But this, the Preds have thrown a wrench into the deadline. The Arizona Coyotes have as well. They were a team that was going to be a seller. Alex Goligoski, you wondered about their goaltending. People were questioning Connor Garland. With the Preds, it's also Mikael Granlund in addition to Ekholm. I think people were curious about a center and Eric Halla. And so, those teams have kind of pulled back at this point, and they're neutral. They're not really buyers or sellers. And there's a large collection of those teams this year, Huss, that's made this deadline difficult, in addition to all the other issues that are in play, whether it's cap limitations, financial internal budget limitations, limited financial incentive to win an extra round this year because fans aren't in the building. That's normally a big thing. If you can sell to your owner, hey, I can make this trade and we can win an extra round, maybe get us closer to a Stanley Cup. Well, that's $8-10 million in the bank. That means something to your owner, and that just doesn't exist this year. And so I've written about all those factors plus the expansion draft. I mean, that's what made Ekholm a tougher ad for a team like the Jets, because then you have to protect him in the expansion draft. And by the way, before I forget, I do want to mention this too. Obviously not at the expense of Blake Wheeler, but I've been tracking the Jets and their expansion draft. It's going to make a lot of sense for them to get Jansen Harkins in as many games as they can down the stretch. He's got 10 more games to play this season in the final 17 in order to be eligible as a player exposed by the Jets. this offseason. And so that's something that they have to keep in the back of their mind as well. It's not just protection, but it's also how, you need to get to your two forwards to expose, and Harkins would make some sense there. So, that's something to watch, and that's been another complicating factor. But yeah, I mean, the Jets are scouring the market on defense. I've long believed that they've been interested in David Savard, and he would be the perfect fit. I mentioned that when I was on with you a few weeks ago to help kick off the show. And I do think the Jets have done some other work, though, as they're waiting for the prices to come down. My colleagues on Insider Trading mentioned yesterday the idea of Josh Manson. Now, I think he's another guy who would be a tremendous fit. But he also has his 10-team no trade list, and I believe the Winnipeg Jets are on that list. So that'd be yet another hurdle as the Jets try and find a solution to add to their top four.
Frank, as far as the landscape of the market right now, you talked about GMs being patient and wanting to, maybe see the prices come down. I'm going to ask you, is the value, how would you compare the perceived value of a number one pick this year in the midst of this strange year with so little junior hockey being played to a number one pick 2 years ago at normal times?
Well, I think the value is still there. The scouts, even though the pandemic hit, never stopped doing their work. They went to dive in and deep on the video. And so that's the scouts. If you talk to them in different scouting departments, they're ready and they feel confident. It's the GMs who are ultimately tasked and are the guys hanging their hat on these picks as part of their career that are a little bit more leery. And so I think that teams are treating first round picks in the same manner and same fashion. They hold the same value. But I think what's different this year is that when you talk about prices, what seems to have remained is, and I'll tell you what, agents have struggled with this as well in terms of properly valuing their players. It seems like GMs have struggled saying, well, hey, historically, the price at the trade deadline, for a top four defenseman was a first round pick, a player, and a prospect, whatever the formula is. They're sticking largely, my understanding is, to that same formula, that the prices are so incredibly high at this point that a lot of teams are saying, this doesn't really make a lot of sense for us for a lot of the reasons I outlined, plus the fact that you, in a shortened season, you get the player for a shorter period of time and have a chance to get him and make an impact and get comfortable for less time. So, one GM explained it to me this way, Huss. They're asking me to pay full freight for what amounts to a half tank of gas. And I believe, and I think teams like the Jets and the Maple Leafs and other firm buyers in a year where there's not very many buyers, that the prices have to change between now and Monday just as a market effect. If not, these teams are left holding the bag for players that they're largely not going to be keeping anyway.
Frank Seravalli with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Taylor Hall's being held out. Kyle Palmieri's being held out. Specifically with Hall, $8 million. They may have to eat some salary, but
definitely gonna have to.
I guess the question to this
Almost.
is, Frank, he could not have had a more miserable season this year. He scored 4 minutes into the season. He's got one goal since. The team has been a historic train wreck. What's the value of Taylor Hall right now, and how much can what he did in the past maybe resurface with a new team? Does Buffalo get a first-round pick for Taylor Hall?
I don't think they do. Certainly not with the gymnastics that are potentially involved with the salary cap and the Sabres having to retain. Maybe that's what pushes it over the edge, is if you can get Buffalo to eat as much and, potentially bring a third party into the mix if you really need it. But I just don't see it for the reasons you mentioned. I think he's a guy that is dining out on that Hart Trophy experience, but I will caution any sort of definitive answer I have with, there's such a stench with the Sabres right now that I think it's really difficult to properly analyze the seasons that these guys have had. I go up and down their lineup, and I know he's struggled a little bit of late, but Colin Miller, I think, could help a team on their back end, and Brandon Montour. Brandon Montour was looked at as a really good player when he was in Anaheim on a young defense corps, and all of a sudden he gets to Buffalo and it's like he forgot how to play. And so I wonder about some team effects there with some of the players that they have. And so I do admit that it's difficult to properly judge Taylor Hall, but I didn't see it in the season following the Hart Trophy. I didn't see it in Arizona, and I certainly haven't seen it in Buffalo. So I think there's a longer track record to suggest that, he had one really extraordinary season. He's been in the top 10 a few times previously when he played with the Oilers in terms of points. But other than that, he's sort of more in that 50 to 60, 60 to 70 point range, not really near a point per game producer that, he might have been chalked up to be.
Yeah, well, there's a whole nother conversation as to what happens with he and a bunch of other potential free agents in the summer, but we'll save that for a little ways down the road. Looking at the North Division, we touched on the Jets, pretty much know what we're doing. Kyle Dubas is the one team, it's really two North Division teams, Toronto, Winnipeg, at the top of the list of the intriguing teams. What's Toronto looking at, and how active do you think Kyle Dubas will be?
Well, they're looking for a left winger that can play on the line with John Tavares, and they're looking for someone who's versatile, that can play up and down the lineup if need be, someone that may even have had a history of playing center at some point, someone that grinds, someone that's going to get pucks and get them to their elite shooters that they have in that group. And, I think a guy like Kyle Palmieri would make a lot of sense. I know that Mikael Granlund made a lot of sense to them from Nashville. I don't think Taylor Hall makes sense there and fits. And you can add in the salary cap constraints that they have that would make that even more difficult. I think someone like Scott Lawton could make sense, but I want to throw this at you too. And I know Kyle Dubas mentioned this in his interview with Pierre LeBrun in The Athletic the other day. And it's also been, I've heard this elsewhere. What if the Maple Leafs addition this year is Alex Galchenyuk? As crazy as that sounds, he's actually fit well in that spot. They gave him a chance to take a step back and regroup his game a little bit. He went to the AHL. They worked on a few specific things with him, and he's produced. I mean, he's produced at a level that, to be totally honest, isn't that far down point production wise from what you'd hope to get from a guy like Granlund. And he was basically free. So does that mean the Leafs aren't going to do anything? No, I think they're still looking, but if push came to shove, and the way that this team has played over the last couple of weeks, getting things back on track in light of their goalie issues, maybe, there's not that same pressing need that might have existed a few weeks ago.
Frank Seravalli, Frank, the Jets and Leafs believe that they're contenders and, will seemingly be aggressive to add to their roster. At the other end of the spectrum in the North Division, there's the Calgary Flames. And I mean, from my perspective, it is just stunning as to what's happened with that hockey club, especially lately. I think they've won 2 of their last 10 games right now under Daryl Sutter. They are, for all intents and purposes, eliminated from the playoffs with like 20 games left. No one could have imagined that happening, probably especially Brad Treliving. What are you hearing about Calgary, and has their recent slump maybe moved forward the potential of moving key players in Calgary, considering that they're pretty much already in next year territory?
Yeah, I think you have to consider everything. And I think that Brad Treliving is willing to do just about anything at this point to shake things up. But I don't think that it means that he's going to be jumping to do it before Monday at 3 p.m. Like those deals for the Sean Monahans and Johnny Gaudreau's, like something seems to be rotten with that core that needs to change. And I'm not pointing the finger at either one of those two. It's a whole collective team that something has just seemed off there really kind of from the very beginning of the season. And there's no doubt in my mind that change is coming. It's just that, like I said, I don't think we'll see it between now and then. I do think that, teams are calling, but I don't think that there's been anything that, it's so difficult to pull off a hockey trade for all the reasons we mentioned. You trade for Gaudreau or Monahan, now you're protecting those guys. And what does your protection list already look like? And, I think they're trying to potentially move some of their UFAs. And I mentioned this in Insider Trading. It's been really quiet on Derek Ryan. I haven't heard anything about a guy like Josh Levo, et cetera, some of their lower priced UFAs. But I do think they're getting calls and some tire kickers on guys like David Riddick. The goalie market is so fascinating this year, especially with every team carrying 3 goalies and some of the injuries that have been in play. And so Riddick might make sense somewhere, especially on a contender. And I think if you were to circle a guy on the Calgary roster between now and Monday, he'd be the most likely to go.
Frank, outside of the North Division, what general manager or team intrigues you the most over the course of these next 4 days?
I'd say probably the Carolina Hurricanes. Don Waddell on Trade Center last year was our GM of the day. He got his name engraved on the trophy. He was involved in everything. Brady Shea, Vincent Trocheck, lots of guys that he traded for last year. And he's another guy that's willing to do just about anything. And so that team has played as well as anyone. They've gone toe-to-toe with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they're looking for a right shot defenseman and some depth help at forward. And they're willing to shake things up. That's what I love about that management group is they're not sitting there saying, "Oh, I'm scared about who we might lose," or "How does this work?" Or, like, they're just like, "Hey, let's go for it. Our team's here. It doesn't mean we're trading away all of our future assets," but they're not scared. And so I think there's a serious sort of safe as death thing that goes on around the NHL, where, it just seems to be a lot of risk aversion around the NHL. And that's one team that excites me because they don't have a lot of that. I think everyone's curious about Tampa in that division. Are they a stealth team to potentially add? And then I'm kind of curious about Colorado in the same fashion, but that team has just been an absolute wagon the way they've played over the last few weeks. And I don't know that they need a whole lot other than maybe some depth and goal.
What about Lou in New York? They've lost Anders Lee. They've been amazing. They've lost once in regulation at home all season. Shut out the Caps last night. We've heard Taylor Hall. I'm not sure Taylor Hall fits in a Lou Lamoriello, Barry Trotz, but he certainly does bring some offense, which they're missing right now. What are the Islanders up to?
Yeah, a lot of people think that Taylor Hall is the guy that the Islanders are tied to. That, I think, if you're looking from a pure character perspective, and you kind of hit that on the head too, about Taylor Hall potentially not fitting in that group with the two people that are running the team. So I've always kind of been curious about Kyle Palmieri, and also in Columbus, Nick Foligno, two guys that wear letters that just grind. But there does seem to be a connection there between Taylor Hall and the Islanders. And, I think there's also been a connection, potentially between Taylor Hall. You wonder about a team like the Boston Bruins. Are they in on Taylor Hall? Would they be in on Palmieri? So there's a couple teams that are kind of looking for that same sort of fit.
Frank, you are the best, man. Thanks so much for doing this. What do you have cooking up? How much tinkering will there be on the trade bait board over the next little while? And what do you and the insiders have coming up over the next few days before the big day Monday?
Well, this is like Super Bowl week for us. You just hope that, with all the prep that you do, you don't come out and play like the Chiefs. And
hey, whoa,
hey, easy. Yeah. So there's definitely some tinkering going on. I'm going to hang up with you, and I'm going to rework the top 10, include Mike Hoffman to give you a little preview. We'll talk about that tonight on Sports Center and the Senators' second intermission. And then just keep grinding. Insider trading Thursday, and I will be glued to my phone for the rest of the weekend.
Well, listen, even if the NHL GMs perform like the Chiefs' offensive or defensive line, I know you will have a Mahomesian performance ready for all of the viewers right through until 2 p.m.
Hey, I don't make the news. I just report on it. So whatever happens, happens. So I'm not going to overpromise, but we hope you're watching.
Hey, pal, thanks so much for doing this. Always love catching up and really appreciate you joining us here in the Peg.
Thanks, Huss. Take care. Thanks, Remo.
There he is, the one and only Frank Seravalli, great friend of the program. And listen, this is especially right now for Winnipeg fans. I would put Toronto fans in that same group at all. There is an element of interest as to what these general managers will do. I think the pressure on Kyle Dubas to not only, first and foremost, to win a damn playoff round and make a run is significant. And when you look at the Winnipeg Jets, Kevin Cheveldayoff's proven in the past that he is absolutely not adverse to taking a big swing if he thinks this team has the opportunity to really contend for a cup. And I think what his team has done so far is basically earned that opportunity to say, yes, we are ready to do exactly that. So it should be an interesting few days. We thank Frank very much for joining us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. All right, we're going to get to a little bit of CFL talk and check in on the Habs in Montreal. Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily brought to you by Not Auto Corp at Waverly and McGillivray. Why not get into the car of your dreams at an incredible price with the help of the Not team? They've got a number of Teslas on the lot right now, so many different vehicles. You can find out more on all their selection at not.ca. They'll consign your vehicle if you'd like with their very successful consignment program to help you make that move. And as I told you, and you read in the Free Press on the weekend, you want to pay in Bitcoin? Trev and the gang will take Bitcoin for the vehicles as well. And, of course, Boston Pizza, Winnipeg. Right now, call your shot with BP and Molson. Any pizza pair, the pizza flights, or any Molson product will get you an entry for the Call Your Shot promo. Boston Pizza gift cards, a custom-made backyard ODR for next year, outdoor rink, or even a VIP NHL experience all on the table. So tonight, tomorrow for the game day, give BP a call. You can do that eating in, taking out, or even for delivery. All right, let's get to it. Our next guest, a longtime friend of myself and Michael Remis, coming to us from Montreal. He's the utility man of TSN 690 in Montreal and a great friend of the show. He is Moe Khan. Mo, what is up? It's great to not only talk to you, but see you. Thanks for doing this today.
Andrew, thank you so much, man. Congrats on this new project. I am confident this is going to go coast to coast worldwide for you, my friend.
Well, I appreciate it. We're having a lot of fun doing it here and focusing on our Winnipeg teams. And listen, you know what a great CFL market this is. And, we'll ask about the Habs before we finish. But, you had some interesting, I know you've been working, within football, Canadian football for many years, have many great contacts. First of all, what was your reaction when you heard Naylor's report on the CFL, XFL talks, and where are we at now a few weeks removed from that? What are you hearing?
Well, Andrew, spoke to someone last night, one of my sources, and not to go into too much detail because of what the crux of what he told me, but essentially to give that diehard CFL fan that will watch your show or who follow you from Winnipeg and beyond, it is a situation where you have to understand that the CFL has to get themselves out of red ink towards the black ink of business. And in the case that we're in right now, going towards these next 3 to 6 months of CFL talks with the XFL, there could be a situation where it will not appease the diehard, passionate CFL guys out there that love 3-down football with Canadian content involved in that football style of play.
Yeah, it's big decisions. And listen, it comes down to one thing, Mo. And my first reaction when I heard this news that, they were going down this road and they were having these talks is that this must be condition critical for the Canadian Football League. I mean, this is not the first choice, the second choice, the third choice, but over the course of the pandemic, I think most of those things have been exhausted. They went to the government. They looked for a white knight. They didn't play last year. And as of right now, there's still major questions, especially in your market, in Toronto, in Vancouver, the 3 biggest markets in the Canadian Football League, of even the will to field a team this season because of what's going on. And that has sort of driven us, I guess, to this, in some ways, outside the box, and to some people, a calamitous option of abandoning many of the things that have made the CFL great for so long.
No question, Andrew. And when you look at the big 3, right, Van, Toronto, Montreal, there are a lot of issues, right? And I've always told you and other people across Canada, when you look at Winnipeg, Sask, Calgary, Edmonton, Ottawa, and Hamilton, those are CFL cities. When it comes to Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, they're cities with CFL teams, right? So you get my point on that?
Absolutely.
Right? So
I think it's accurate.
Yeah, and the reality is in a market like Montreal, and as look, you're a big NFL guy, I'm a big NFL guy. I pose this question to many people out there with young kids who are our age group, more or less. I've said, guys, if you had a chance to watch a Cowboy Eagle game on a Sunday afternoon or Alouettes Ticats at Molson Stadium, what would you do? I'm staying home to watch the NFL game and probably flip in between commercials towards that CFL game. And that's where there is that big chasm of where the fan base interest in this city, in particular for Montreal, for example, where they got to sort of connect and get that younger demographic to buy into the CFL game. It's a great sport, Andrew. You and I both like it. A lot of people like it, but the reality is, in a market like Montreal, they're not. I'm not saying they're not narrow-minded, but they're more prone to watching NFL on a Sunday afternoon than a CFL game that might be popping up from 1 to 4
for sure.
o'clock.
And, I'll give the Bombers a lot of credit. I mean, for many years, there was this CFL versus NFL. And, we're not doing anything to avoid the NFL. In fact, we're going to play in those games. And it really forced fans to choose. I mean, I was always so bent out of shape. Every year, the Banjo Bowl, the biggest game, was often at the exact same time of NFL opening weekend. Then everyone's got their fantasy teams and their teams playing, and it just didn't make sense. And, I'm not sure whether this is Wade Miller or it was a league thing, but they figured it out. Maybe we should move this game to Saturday. Maybe more people could come in from Saskatchewan as opposed to having a Sunday game and then having to get back for work the next day. And that honestly was the catalyst of really creating a much bigger event. Now, if you could only do those in some other places. But here's what intrigues me about this potential CFL, XFL bit. I've often thought that the schedule should be pushed up much earlier. We talk about going to games. How many people really want to sit outside in Winnipeg or Edmonton or Regina in the first week in November for a regular season game before we even get to playoffs? I think that there's a hunger to get these games in earlier. And then when we look at the big picture, Mo, of where this entire industry is going, if you ignore the developments on the sports betting side of things, you are missing maybe the biggest opportunity right now for pro sports. And if the CFL alone or the CFL with the XFL, whatever this league is, essentially starts up, a month or two after the Super Bowl ends and finishes closer to the beginning of the NFL season, I think because football is by far the number one betting sport. If you have TV, and, games and markets of people with interest in them, there will be a lot of money coming in on those games. And I think that sort of rising tide will float the boats of everyone in there. But again, for CFL traditionalists, the thought of moving that and even considering things, I totally understand, is distasteful in a lot of ways. The unfortunate thing is, I'm not sure they have many other ways to turn to right now. And listen, would I prefer it to be the way it is? Absolutely. But if you're telling me no football or some of these things that have been flown out, I'll take the new look CFL, XFL, whatever you want to call it, because I still want to go to games and have fun and watch the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with whoever they're playing, even if it's not just the 8 Canadian franchises right now.
So I'll give you the example, Andrew. I spoke to a CFL personnel guy probably 2-3 weeks ago when it first came out by XFL, CFL. He told me that, put it this way, Mo, for the CFL owners who are on board for this project to go through, the idea to have, say, Toronto, Montreal, for example, against LA or Dallas on a Saturday afternoon on ESPN or Fox is appealing to them because they feel like that is going to a different demographic of fan base in the States that will watch the game and buy into the product and say, you know what, I like what I'm seeing right now from this melange of the CFL and XFL. And again, when you look at Redbird, one of the biggest backers behind the rock for this whole project, let's not forget, Redbird just bought into Liverpool FC and Fenway Sports Group, right? LeBron James is a part of the Fenway Sports Group now, with his shares being bought by Fenway to now become an ultimate owner for the whole process. If by chance they say, hey, LeBron, do you mind wearing a Tie Cat hat on Instagram or on TikTok, whatever it is, that alone, Andrew, for the CFL perspective, would generate huge amount of interest because what is LeBron wearing on his head right now? That's a Hamilton Tie Cat hat. Let me go buy that from the CFL.ca shop and now wear that hat because LeBron's made it cool to wear Tie Cat gear for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, you could do a lot worse than having guys like LeBron and particularly Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, being a part of it. There's no doubt about it. I'm fascinated by where this goes. I mean, at the end of the day, I want football this year. I want football in future years, and begrudgingly, I think if this is a direction that they have to go, I'm with it. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, the XFL's folded twice. I mean, listen, 20 years ago was Vince McMahon. It was. It was
Monday Night Raw and football.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
Exactly. I mean, it was a gong show. But this past incarnation, I don't think we can possibly put it in the same kind. I watched a lot of the football. I thought it was good. You saw in some of the markets, Seattle, St. Louis in particular, DC, they were developing some solid fan bases. And I thought there was real potential for it going forward. And then, as a fledgling league, it got taken. It was the first casualty of the pandemic. So
Yeah.
I'm not really as down on it as an entity as others are. And then we've talked about some of the people that are in. But listen, we'll revisit this in a few weeks, Mo, as more information comes about. Got to ask you about the Montreal Canadiens as the Jets head to for a couple there in your city right now. Carey Price and Brendan Gallagher, two pretty significant players that look to be out of the lineup for the next little while.
Yeah, like big news for the Habs, right? That with Jake Allen now going to be the starting goaltender for at least for the present moment, going towards the weekend games with Toronto and the back-to-back against Winnipeg. And there's the big debate now: bigger loss, is it Carey Price or Brendan Gallagher? I think they're both equal in value, what they bring to the team. And I think from the perspective of where the Habs are right now, Andrew, with Carey Price, he's had a very up and down season, very unpredictable, where he's played great at times, but then he looked like red light Andre Rasico, the former Habs goalie from the early '90s, right? So with Jake Allen, though, what he's brought a steady influence of success, which has been a rare form for backup goalies during Price's time. And I think Habs fans are quite confident that he can, take the reins of the ship and direct it towards a playoff spot. The question for Brendan Gallagher, I know you brought the point with him being out maybe upwards of 6 weeks. The best case scenario that's been mentioned here today is that maybe he comes back in 3 weeks. But look, you mentioned about Calgary and how they're pretty much going to be not going to playoffs, whatever. It's over for them. The Habs have some runway to work with here. There isn't a pressure to bring back Gallagher in 3 weeks. They can wait at the end of April going towards May, where they'll have a bunch of games to finish off before playoff hockey begins, that Gallagher can get back into playoff shape. The question that comes up for Marc Bergevin now is this. Monday is the trade deadline. Will he go out there to acquire some more depth for the back end of the defense, which look very lethargic and slow at times here? Or will he call up? And people in Habstown here, Andrew, are praying to the hockey gods that Cole Caulfield gets the call up and scores 25 million goals before the year ends, and he becomes the next Maurice Richard for the next 10 to 15 years as a Hab player.
Moe Khan's with us from Montreal. Mo, what's the Montreal media and the fans are always going nuts about something there. Trade deadline's coming up on Monday. Is there expectations that Bergevin does something, or have the moves sort of been made? How much wiggle room, and what do the people want if they want anything on Monday?
Well, if the Hab fans are GMs, they're being Taylor Hall, Ekholm, and everyone else, right? Like if you go to Frank Seravalli's top 10, right?
They're all coming to Montreal.
They're all coming to Montreal by Friday into Saturday morning, right? But the reality is Marc Bergevin brought in Eric Staal because he realized he had a weakness down the spine of the forwards, right? Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Nick Suzuki have been very up and down this year. Jake Evans, who's the fourth line center, doesn't have the Eric Staal oomph, but Eric Staal brings that cup experience, and in the most important part about his game is that he can score goals, and we saw that earlier this week. And look, for Philip Deneau, he's been not so great, and we talked about the contract situation with him, what he's going to do. So he brought in Eric Staal. The question that remains for this team moving towards Monday: does he address the left side of the defense here to get himself a left-handed shot that's mobile? Because you look at Brett Kulak, same thing. He's been cement feet at times here, but he's had his moments of greatness at times. But the thing is, for this team to move forward here, they know that Jeff Petrie is their ultimate number one guy. Shea Weber has taken a step back this year, and you can see it in how he's been on the ice so far this year with a truncated schedule. So Monday will be fascinating, but again, this team's up against the salary cap. So to use a popular term, salary cap gymnastics. Can Marc Bergevin somehow navigate through the jungle and get himself some more depth to work with? If he does, I think the Habs will definitely be in the playoffs, but the question is, will they all click and mesh together at the right time to make a run? That's going to be determined in about 8 weeks from now.
I mean, let's just say, I think we all agree, the Habs, we know the playoff teams, the Habs will be a playoff team. If the Habs make the playoffs and bounce out in the first round of the playoffs, how will this season be viewed by Habs Nation?
Disaster. It'll be an atomic disaster, because we go back, Andrew, to the summer fling of hockey that we enjoyed, right? Fans were up and saying, "Oh my God, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Nick Suzuki have been founded. They're now the next great foundation pieces for this franchise." Well, they got to slow starts, right? Marc Bergevin brought in Toffoli. He brought in Edmondson. He brought in Josh Anderson, Jake Allen. He brought in some names. But now we go into the season, they get off to a 7-2-1 start. People are talking about Stanley Cup parade down St. Catherine, and they fumble their way with the Jets and stuff. The thing is now, if they make it to the playoffs, which we believe they will, if they get crushed in four or five games, I don't see Marc Bergevin being the GM of this team come May 30th, because it would be an embarrassment for him. But if they make a run where they go maybe 2 rounds and they play 2 tough rounds of hockey, Bergevin will be back. But the reality is right now, Carey Price, Shea Weber, and even Jeff Petrie, to an extent, are on the back nine of their careers, along with Corey Perry and Eric Stahl. So this is win-now mode for the team. And if they can get a seam of success, all bets are off that this team can go as far as Carey Price can take him if he's still the so-called best goalie in the North Division.
Hey, I know there's not going to be fans in the building, but what would a Leafs Habs series do just to the atmosphere around sports fans during a very difficult time in both provinces?
Yeah. So let's go back to 05-06, right, the year after the lockout, when the NHL did adopt that back-to-back, you play in the same city format. So Toronto played Montreal in late March of 2006 on a Thursday, Saturday. At the time, the Leafs were terrible, weren't going to the playoffs. The Habs were going to the playoffs. That atmosphere for that 3-day window was like a Super Bowl week in Montreal, Andrew. So this takes that 3-day window and let's multiply it by 10 days at minimum for a 7-game series, right? That will be fun to watch. This is the best chance to finally see it happen. Could it happen? It very well could be the first round matchup that we see in middle of May here, Andrew. But again, for this Montreal team, they probably match up better with Toronto and Edmonton and not Winnipeg, who have done circles against the Habs during their games so far this season.
Well, it's funny because the Habs play such an aggressive style. Their sticks, they're an annoying team to play. Certainly from the Jets side of things, especially these last couple games. But the one thing that the Habs don't have that, you have in these other 3 teams is that, elite talent, especially down the middle. But again, we've seen Carey Price get things done before, and we've seen the Habs get magic going on in the spring. So all I know is that it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. We think we know who the 4 teams are. We'll see how it shakes down. And I'll tell you what, if we get a Jets Habs series, I know there'll be a lot of people around here that'll be excited for it. And I know we'll be talking with you soon. But Mo, thanks so much for doing this.
Always.
Enjoy these games going forward. Appreciate you talking CFL with us. And we'll look forward to doing this with you real soon.
Pleasure's mine, Andrew. And again, for the CFL fans out there, just brace yourselves because these next 3 to 6 months will be uncomfortable times of what the direction will be for the CFL.
Yeah, we're certainly feeling it right now. Give Mo a follow on Twitter, folks, at Moe Khan 19. Mo, be well, my friend. We'll do this again soon.
Always, man. Have a great week.
Great stuff. There's Moe Khan with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Getting a ton of attraction here in the chat on the topic, going back to the Canadian Football League and what the future of it is. Gilbert Marion, keep it Canadian. Been around longer than the NFL. Listen, dude, that's what everyone would love to see. Unfortunately, though, it sounds. It's not like they're being completely transparent with all the financials from the privately owned teams. But from everyone that's been investigating this, it's ugly. It's not good. And, if you have teams that don't even want to play, that is really, really concerning. And again, this is for a league that did not play last year. Darcy Cullen, I feel 4Down would attract a broader fan base, especially down south, and be a better business model for the league. Gary Madeira says the CFL has to adapt if they want to continue to grow. It's a simple fact the league will never survive with the things the way they were going. That's just a fact. You talk to anyone that has been, in on the Canadian Football League and following it closely or involved in the inside. I mean, the Bombers have actually done an incredible turnaround over the last few years and have been profitable. But we saw what this past season did to the Bombers. If the Bombers are losing $7 million, what's BC losing? What's Toronto losing? What's happening in Montreal? It's ugly, folks. It's ugly. And, Randy Ambrosie, I believe to his credit, is exhausting every possible option to try to both play this season and maintain football here in Canada. But I also understand how, honestly distasteful it is to a lot of people to think that, we may lose so many things that's made over a century of CFL football, what it is. Geoff Fienberg's going to come up and join us in a couple minutes. We will get to our final picks for the Masters. Of course, the Masters and all of our golf talk here brought to you by Breezy Bend. Find out more on Winnipeg's premier private golf course at Breezy. They're actually full right now. They do have a membership waiting list, and it sounds like the The old course is going to be opening up this weekend. And a shout out to Paterson and the gang at Aikens Lake as well. If you're looking for a great trip in the province this summer with our travel restrictions as they are, why don't you think about a world-class fishing trip not too far from Winnipeg? Find out more at aikenslake.com. We've got some more. Here we go. Gilbert Marion, pre-COVID, CFL was doing reasonably well. Well, give it all up. Well, here they were. The Bombers won the Grey Cup. They were going to make some money. It was great. It wasn't the case in the rest of the league. And unfortunately, like if it was just about Winnipeg, things would be going fine. I mean, this is a very healthy franchise. And even a place like Saskatchewan, which has had some real financial troubles. Edmonton, these community-owned teams. Yeah. It's the others that are far more concerning. And, you need to have member teams. And listen, this league needs an influx of money. The government wasn't going to do it. And that, I think, is why they've gone down this road. Let's see here. Darcy Cullen, absolutely yes on the time clock. NFL games are such snoozers, 15 plays every quarter. And Gary says, I'm not saying to give everything up, just have to adapt to what the market wants. The market disagrees. Way more players than sports. It's a great back and forth. Thanks to everyone that's hammering those comments in the chat. And while you're doing it, make sure to give us a thumbs up. We're going to have Fienberg joining us in just a few minutes, and I can't wait to get his final picks for you. We'll do that right away. I'm just going to send him a message ready for you. And while we do that, we'll take a quick look at the odds for coolbet.com. This is a nice little primer. And by the way, if you missed it, go to my Twitter, @Hustlerama. We have did a Masters betting preview today with Pat Gregoire of Coolbet. It was a lot of fun. We went for about 50 minutes, kind of going over some of our best bets, some of the picks, some of the odds we like the best. And I'm looking right now. They've got all the matchups set up for next week. And we've already seen some movement on the lines today. Dustin Johnson right now is your Masters favorite. He's at 9-1. And Bryson DeChambeau, John Rahm, and Justin Thomas all at 12-1. Jordan Spieth bounced back a little bit. He's at 14-1. And then you've got a group, Rory McIlroy at 20, Pat Cantlay at 22, Xander Schauffele 25, and Brooks Koepka was at 25. He is now at 27. Colin Morikawa, 29. Vic Hovland, 34. And then the only other players under 40-1, my guy Tony Finau, Daniel Berger, and Patrick Reed, all 39-1. All right, let's. I think we've got Fienberg ready to go. I just can't see him in here. Remis, are we good to go with Geoff? Oh, okay. Sounds good. Well, let me know as soon as he is ready to go, and we'll get him in there. The one guy that I talked about quite extensively with Pat today on the Cool Bet show was Bubba Watson. And, when talking about the Masters and when you're making your picks, there's a couple things. Course history, experience at Augusta, it really does matter. Current form is the other one. And Bubba's got 2 green jackets. And Bubba's such a unique individual kind of between the ears, that you never know what you might get out of Bubba. But the bottom line is he's got some pretty good memories of Augusta National. If he goes in and gets off a good start, I think he might be. And I just saw Bubba tweet it out. He's got some absolutely sick Nike Air Jordan Masters golf shoes. So he'll look good. He'll feel good. And hopefully he'll play well, because we was originally thinking about him at 79-1. That number is now 99-1. So we spent some time talking about Bubba earlier as well. And the other guy that sort of stands out to me, just surprised that his number is as high as it is another former Masters champion. And that's when Sergio Garcia. And Garcia is at 64-1. He's won on tour this year. He played great in the match play going forward. He won just recently on the Texas swing. So I'm quite interested as to what Sergio will have for us coming up, and I think there's some good value on Serge at 64-1. So as I said, we'll look forward to getting Geoff on in just a minute. While we're waiting for that, let's get to the lines. Early game today in the National Hockey League, by the way. Edmonton is at Ottawa, and that game is going to start at 4 o'clock our time. Yes, with the Sens playing again tomorrow. I believe they've got back-to-back games. They're, moved the game up a little bit. Edmonton, heavy favorite. They're 7-0, I believe, this year against the Ottawa Senators, minus 196 on the money line. Ottawa, a plus 165 home dog. The Montreal Canadiens, plus 132 underdogs, taking on those Toronto Maple Leafs, minus 156. Other games tonight in the league, Colorado is a heavy favorite at Minnesota at minus 204. We've got the Vegas Golden Knights at St. Louis after crushing them, 6-1 on Tuesday night or Monday night, minus 156 for Vegas, plus 132 for St. Louis. Other games tonight, Arizona at LA, Jersey at Buffalo, Florida at Carolina as well. Oh, the Jersey, Buffalo, Florida, Carolina. Now we're getting into tomorrow's action because we've also got the Jets right now already listed. Guess what? Underdogs again. We've been used to this. Plus 113 on the money line right now against the Montreal Canadiens at minus 133. Yeah, well, what we're doing is let's bring Michael Remis back in, and hopefully we can get Fienberg loaded up and get some of his picks before we're done. For sure, give Geoff a follow at GFienberg17. He's had a ton of content coming out all week long, and hopefully we'll get this done beforehand. Remo, chat's been popping today. Lots of people talking about the CFL topics we talked about with Moe Khan.
Yeah, people got a lot of opinions on that. I want to give a special shout out to Stan Scotthuss, $50 super chat. So thank you so much. Yeah,
thank you, Stan.
That is incredible generosity from Stan. So that will definitely go help a lot of our startup costs. So appreciate your support. So if you want to do a super chat, it's that $sign button below the chat. So we've got a couple.
That's the all-time greatest, Stan. Blown away by your generosity. Thank you so much for doing it and your support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, we are ready to go with Geoff Fienberg. Oh, he's looking good, too. He's got the DraftKings lineups done. He's got the DK swag on ready to go. It's Masters Week, buddy. What, Remo, can you get Fienberg in here? And we will be all ready to go with our final little run of Masters talk before tomorrow morning. And, I've always said on this program how angry it makes me that you can't get a lot of it on TV, but trust me, get the Masters app. It will blow your mind from what I'm hearing so far. Geoff Fienberg is here looking like he's ready for tee-off. How are you doing, pal?
I'm ready to build lineups. I don't have them built yet. Just have all my spots reserved, Huss. But it's going to be, I don't know. I've got to find the time. Because I want to make it special and I want to take care of myself before I got to build them. So I'm in the right space to build them. Don't want to build them on edge. I don't like building them too early because I don't like to tinker. I'm not a tinkerer.
It always ends up hurting you at the end. When you take the one guy out late and put the other guy in, it's always the wrong decision.
Yeah, I'd rather second guessing myself would be the worst fate. It'd be like if you're the New York Jets and 3 quarterbacks are going to go after you and now you got to do it again.
Let's get to it. We were kind of going over some of the odds while we were getting you on. Top of the card, DJ's at 9-1. Just looking on CoolBet right now. Dead heat really with Bryson DeChambeau, Justin Thomas as well. Jordan Spieth actually just dropped down to 12-1, but John Rahm's the other guy. All the other guys, it's kind of funny. We're not talking about Rory McIlroy in that group for the first time in a long time. We've got the big 5. Who are you looking at amongst that group?
Yeah, you know what? Good for you, Huss. You're right. I've been calling them a big 6. We got big 6, essentially under 20, but over at CoolBet, Rory's pushed to 20. So congratulations, I guess, to them. But yeah, we got 5 guys under 15-1 to win the Masters. From that group, the one that I've bet, it was not an easy decision. I have gone with Bryson DeChambeau. I've gone with Bryson. I feel like compared to last year, I feel like he's more under the radar to a certain extent. He's not the story. And, well, I believe he's in better form this time around. His irons, his last 2 events, gained 3 strokes, gained 4 strokes with his irons in his last 2 stroke play events. Of the super elites, it's funny now at the Masters, Jordan is officially a super elite. That does seem fair. Even I can't argue that because he checks every box 7 times. Bryson statistically is the best putter. He hasn't putted well historically at the Masters, though. But I don't think there'll be like a build up to him putting well at the Masters. I feel like he'll just win the Masters when he puts well at the Masters. And I believe he's capable of doing that.
Hey, what about the green reading book thing? I mean, I have never read a green book. I've seen a couple guys hold them. I know pros use them. They're not available. Does that impact a guy like Bryson more than others because of just the incredible preparation he does and the amount of information he takes into account on every shot he makes?
Yeah, to a certain extent, but I feel like he's adapted just fine for the most part. The other guys don't have them. I still, trust Bryson on the greens, be it the Masters or somewhere or anywhere else. So no, it's not a big concern for me. I mean, it's like splitting hairs. Like if Justin Thomas if Justin Thomas putts, he's going to win. But of those like big five, he is statistically, and your eyeballs know it, he's the worst putter. But there's no middle ground with Justin. When he putts, he wins.
Well, and Thomas is my pick of those five guys.
Yeah.
I've been on him, and it's no good. A troublesome year for him at times. He's went through some personal adversity, lost his grandfather, but he came back and won the Players. And when it comes to the iron game, there are few peers in the game, and that's important. Hey, like I said to Pat Gregoire earlier today, the putting is not as big of an issue if you're sticking it to 3 feet. And that's something that Justin Thomas can do.
Not an issue.
But let me ask you about Spieth. You were hilarious, and I've been quoting you throughout the show this week that Jordan Spieth poured a can of gasoline on the Masters with his win. God knows you and Pat Mayo and Tim, we've been talking about Spieth for the last few years, and it's been sort of stunning the way he fell. What do you make of Jordan Spieth right now, the day before tee-off at Augusta, where he has a closet with a green jacket in it?
Okay, I'll just say I'm relieved I never made like the bet that would pretty much hand over my Herbert collection for a few $100 if Spieth won the Masters. Even the week of numbers that I was like threatening to take to book myself. I don't want any part of them anymore, Hustler. Like, I'm scared. I'm certain he's going to be in it Sunday. As you know, I predicted when it was sunny and shiny that a storm was coming. And it came, and it lasted so much longer than even I anticipated. That even I didn't want to take credit anymore. That we're so, like, let's just get this storm out of here. And I enjoyed last weekend. I enjoyed seeing Jordan win. It was fun. But if he starts winning like the Masters, it's going to annoy me again real quick. But he's doing everything. I mean, his tee to green game seems outstanding. His driver, I mean, on that entire, pretty much all of Sunday, his driver didn't let him down one time. And when's the last time that's happened? And it was nice to see. It was nice to see in the sense that this didn't like come out of nowhere where you could even dismiss it as like a hot week. Since Torrey Pines, he has been on top of everything. And you could debate the field. You could throw stones in the field he beat. And maybe I would if he wasn't playing so great in that lead up to beating that field. But he was. And now we're at the Masters where you feel like he would have played well even without this form. So it's going to be, he's probably going to be a part of it. Would I want to bet him at the same or worse number than a Jordan, than a Justin, than a Bryson, than a Rahm? No, I wouldn't. But feels like he's going to be a part of it now. And yeah.
No, it's hard to imagine him not being in the mix, in the storylines on the weekend, considering the way he's playing. Rory at 20-1. If you had told me that at any point since we've been talking golf for the last 6-7 years, I would have said that's an auto bet going hard on it. I'm not there. What are your thoughts about Rory and his game right now heading into Augusta?
Okay, there are the people that seem to be in on Rory that the number is hit. I would say, can you give me that number next year? Can you give me that number in a year from now? Like, I'll make a commitment to bet that from you in a year from now. He's working with Pete Cowan, who does wonders. people think, maybe he simplified it so much at this point where he can catch his lightning in a bottle. Unfortunately, his lead-in form isn't very good. And there have been some outliers while we're at the Masters as to who's going to win the Masters. But even the guys that win that you weren't expecting were going to win all check the boxes when it came to the lead-in form. Willett certainly did. Sergio did. Reed did. I'm just not there with Rory. I don't trust his irons at the moment. I don't trust his irons, and I don't trust his putter.
I don't trust his head right now.
Pardon?
I don't trust what's between his ears right now. I mean, he has just listen. I love Rory, but it's been shocking to see where he has been. And some of the best thing about Rory is how honest he is. And he gives some of the best interviews in sports, and he was pretty frank that he's changed a bunch of things. He was trying to chase Bryson, and pretty much admitted that it wasn't working.
Yeah, and I don't think that the struggles are as bad as people are making them out to be. He still had some late tee times, this season on a Sunday. Like Rory does get a lot of late tee time Sundays, and winning is hard. But in the past, Huss, like, how do I put this? He would just stick it. Like, it would be he might miss a putt, and then you would be afraid, don't worry, like, he's going to stick one to 3 feet in these next couple holes. We'll get it right back. Now he's like 110 yards in, and it's like to 30 feet. That's like what is starting to happen. It's so weird. And I'd be great. The career Grand Slam, he's so far off the radar. There's like 5 other stories ahead of him that you can make for each one of them. He's got his own. But I don't think he's going to find it here. I don't think you can find it here.
Hey, let's move to the 20. And you know what? We've talked a lot about this really since the restart. We've seen and had a lot of success betting guys in between 25 to 40 to 1 to win events. There's a few guys that are very intriguing to me. Brooks Koepka, who, was 25. Now I see him at 27. He was 29 earlier this week, is a guy that I am on for Brooks. Listen, I'll be honest. I got suckered by his tweets on the weekend. I mean, when Brooks Koepka drops the Michael Jordan meme, and I took it personally, that gets me fired up.
Yeah.
But he's right beside another guy, Xander Schauffele, and I don't know whether I just haven't been, consuming as much content as I've had, but this is one guy of all these top players who, for a long time people thought Xander is going to be a guy, he's going to win majors, he's going to do it. Been very quiet on the Xander front, and yet his numbers pretty much stayed at 25. Brooks and Xander, who you got?
To win, I've got Brooks Koepka. But if you're asking me, like, what's probably a safer top 5 bet? Yeah, it's probably Xander Schauffele. If you're asking me who I got. Now, Xander, I'm not there. I would probably eat a couple points and play Cantley at like 22 just because I'm like a sucker for that. I mean, they're both total package players that rarely feel like they're putting for par, Huss. And you see the shots from, I mean, if you're reading reports last week, whether it was Westwood there early on a scouting trip saying, oh, it's playing firm, it's playing fast. And then if you got to watch the lady amateurs play on the weekend, put on a fun show, you saw for your own eyes, like, whoa, it's playing pretty firm for these ladies. Like, I don't think Dustin could hold that ball there, like with, like you just saw what was happening. And then we saw the reports this week, firm, fast, like hard course. And I don't know whether they're banking on rain or they just want it so firm and fast because guys are making the jokes. You see the fairways are Augusta green, but the greens are purple. Like there's elements of purple on these things. And that makes you wonder, like, should I just ignore all the chalk? And maybe even this tier is too chalky. But Brooks Koepka, back to this subject, if that pony's running, I'm going to be there at these numbers north of 25 to 1. You could take this, what I'm about to say, and convince yourself you should bet Rory McIlroy. But I'm betting the ceiling here. I'm betting Brooks Koepka to win the golf tournament. I'm not betting in each way. I'm not betting top 5. If he finishes 70th, it's literally the exact same as him finishing 3rd. but I think his chance of being number one are as good as any outside of like 4 players.
Hey, you dropped some intel about Koepka of doing a little Big J journal work. Getting some sources. What fill our listeners in on what you got on Brooks?
I mean, listen, I made the bet over at CoolBet on the weekend. There was the 32-1. It just got me and my boys. We made like a big team bet, so we'll have a big fun COVID team party, I guess, if Brooks wins. But I'd gotten word that Brooks was playing there. Wasn't from someone on the grounds at Augusta, that there were no signs of a limp and some practice on the weekend with Victor Hovland. And then somebody I know who was friends with somebody in his actual camp at the grounds in Augusta, even he had to send some text where you first have to like glad hand like the guy, like, how's the family? How's everything going? And then you get like right to the business. So, like, how's Brooks? And the exact quote back, Huss, I think I sent it to you, was, this pony is ready to run hard. So that's all like you need to know about Brooks Koepka. It's like Ricky Bobby, first or last, but man, you trust him. He's got that great Augusta track record.
Listen, this is if the pony's ready to run, he can hit the tape first, and we certainly have seen it in the past. Who are some of your longer shots that are getting a touch from Team Fienberg?
Yeah, and Huss, you got to say, you said earlier, the numbers out of COVID, this was the sweet spot range. This is also the sweet spot range for that first-time major champion, that first-time Masters champion. Yeah, Dustin and Tiger were chalk. Chalk can happen here, and it might happen again. But Sergio, Reed, Bubba, Willett, like a ton of guys in that 40 to 80 to 1 range. Look at last year's majors outside of Dustin. Bryson brings home 28 to 30 to 1 at the U.S. Open. Morikawa brings home 35-40 to 1. This is the range. And for me, it's Daniel Berger. I know it's like just annoying to hear, like I said, like when it comes to the Masters, there are boxes that need to be checked. Like, it's silly but true. U.S. Opens, PGA Championships, British Opens, we don't go back there every year. Like, there isn't like this consistent, like, hard information we can work on in determining the winners. Well, for me, Berger checks absolutely every single box. Ever since we've come back to play, there's never been a moment where he wasn't a top 10 golfer. Like, forget world ranking. I mean, like, actually what your eyeballs are showing you. And I trust him if he's in the heat of it on a Sunday versus one of those super dragons, big boys, super elites, whatever you want to call them. I trust him. Like, I trust him so much in like with like almost like a Patrick Reed type confidence that he wants to own that moment. So I'm all about Berger, whether it be the lead in form, whether it be a nice run here at the Masters in the past, whether it be his ability to be a dominant greens and regulation player and a confident putter. Like, he checks everything. And then it's fun to be a part of. I'm trying to find that guy who isn't priced like a multi-major champion. And to me, it is Daniel Berger. Because guess what? I think he's as good as Schauffele and Cantley. Like, that's what I believe. I understand why he's not priced like them, but I see them. If you had me rank all these guys, he would be there, like, with them in their tier.
Well, and to be honest, if you were just looking at their performances in PGA Tour events since the restart, I would argue that Berger is clearly ahead of both of those guys.
You could totally make that case also. You could totally make that case as well.
Hey, let me ask you about a couple guys that you mentioned that I have sort of pegged as long shots, just really from a value perspective, but also, I mean, you want to have current form. Course history is huge, and we've seen a lot of guys that have done it once do it again. Bubba Watson is one of those guys. Yeah. I got on Bubba earlier this week at 79 to 1. Then I saw he'd gone to 99 to 1.
That too, Huss. I might have to.
Touched on that. I see it's now backed up a little bit to 89 to 1. But Bubba Watson at 90 to 1 and Sergio Garcia at 65. Sergio just won in Texas. Why are these numbers as high as they are?
Okay, I really do love Sergio this week. Like, and the 64 to 1 that you're seeing is such a great number. For the form that Sergio has right now, it's incredible. The only negative about Sergio is really how horrible he's been in major championship golf since winning the Masters. but he seems like he's in a great place at the moment. So I got a lot of belief. There's like a rung of past champions here. If these greens are purple, like you almost wish you didn't bet any chalk, because this thing is going to be so wide open. From your Bubba Watson play, Huss, to even Adam Scott, who was starting to really find that driver in his last couple starts. A guy that's going to be laughed at when you say that he can win, but don't ignore Louis Oosthuizen at 7,500 on DraftKings. He is not going to withdraw. And he hasn't finished outside of like 230 in his 5 events this year. And he loves it here. And he's going to do exactly what you need the guy you're paying $7,500 to do on DraftKings. And you know what he's doing right now? He is putting. He's gaining strokes with his putter in his last events. On top of the great like ball striking that's normally there. Jason Day, my reports on him from Augusta is he hasn't left the putting green. If he'd have putted there, he would have won. Maybe it was the Players. He was like first or second in stroke. He gained over 10 strokes tee to green at the Players. Could not buy a putt. Hasn't been able to putt well. If he finds it this week, so there's this whole like Old Yeller, and it's because it's the Masters. And like from a total placing play, guy like Matt Kuchar, he's in form. Like he's probably going to do what Kuchar normally does at the Masters. So from DraftKings to maybe some pools, there's a lot of these older guys that I really do like. Maybe more so some of the sexier, younger names at the moment.
Yeah, you're mentioning Cooch right now. I mean, I'm looking at Coolbet, 124 to 1, 12 to 1 top 5, 6 to 1 top 10. I mean, you could convince me to get on the Cooch train for maybe one of those play shows. Any other exotics that you have? We talked a little bit before. I love Corey Connors. There's a heavy piece on Connors to be top Canadian at minus 143. I'm sort of surprised that number hasn't moved. You got any others in there? Either group pairings, top 10s, top 20s that you want, or do we just want to talk about how great it would be if Kevin Na won the Masters and DJ had to put the jacket on him?
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. A couple top 20s that I like. They're both like plus 180. I played like Day and Fleetwood for top 20s. I know it's not like a super paying prop. I don't want to like have to say this, especially like on this network into you, but like I might be, at least like from a DraftKings perspective, as I line up build, I might be on a total Connors fade. I think he's going to be so popular, and for obvious reasons, Huss, I don't know.
Yeah, but
like,
can he beat Mac Hughes and Mike Weir?
Yeah, he can, but Matt Hughes is it could be a sneaky
when
one.
He can putt.
I lost this bet in November. I made this bet. I like went in on Connors top Canadian in November. I'm pretty sure Hughes got him. I could be wrong. I don't know. It's all a blur, even though it was that recent. I will say a guy also who I'm keeping an eye on big time, Matthew Wallace. His iron play has been unconscious. He led the field. He was better than Jordan tee to green last week. Could not get a putt to go. The way he's been striking the ball, if conditions are going to be tough, he's a guy to watch. And in closing here, Huss, when Jordan set that scoring record last time, it was Danny Willett winning the next year at like -5 or -6. They do not like what Dustin Johnson said, a new scoring record. Like, I could see why the greens are purple and they could stay purple. Someone just set a scoring record. Last time that happened, they bit back hard and the wind helped them. But they are going to do everything they can, I think. Because it almost feels like they're like going to throw their last punches before they decide to do ball rollbacks or other sort of big things. You know, you were, before I came on, we were discussing the sad realities of the CFL. Well, there's probably some sad purist realities to what's got to happen here at the Masters. And if the green's got to be purple, despite everything else being beautiful and manicured to perfection, maybe that's what they're gonna do. You better be on the right angles. You better be putting from underneath the hole, or you're screwed.
Hey, quickly before we go, do you have an Andrikers update? Who should we be nervous about after your conversations with Tim?
So his official pick to win is John Rahm, which is fair. I mean, John Rahm was right there with Justin and Bryson for me. I got nothing bad to say. I would, but he also picked Berger, which is sad.
No.
And Lee Westwood doesn't need anything holding him back, but he's got that. So yeah, that's that reality.
Bus split in the chat. Fienberg is great. Has won me a few bucks. Love to hear that. You have been very busy. It is Masters Week. I'll encourage people to go check out the Pat Mayo Experience and subscribe to the Mayo Media Network for the show on Monday. What content do you have planned for the next few days? You guys going to be doing a cut sweat show and whatnot?
Yeah, cut sweat show Friday. Sort of get follow my Twitter feed, better understanding when we'll be live. But Masters cut sweat show. And I'll be at it tonight at 10 p.m. on ftndaily.com.
That will be 9 p.m. Central, folks.
Yes,
and if you're not already doing it, follow him on Twitter at gfienberg17. Dude, a pleasure as always rapping with you, my friend. I will look forward to chatting with you during the weekend. And good luck. Let's catch some tickets.
All the best. Thanks, Huss.
Oh, great stuff. There's my guy, Geoff Fienberg. So much fun talking golf with him over the years on the warm-up, and great to have him with us today on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Man, this has been a great show. Let's get Michael Remis back in here. Remo, we started off talking about the big news of the day in and around the Winnipeg Jets, the injury to Blake Wheeler. He will not make the trip. And we'll see what that means, whether, he feels better and joins the team at some point. They're sort of, handling this as if he's out indefinitely. Big opportunity for Jansen Harkins. Discuss the change up in the lines with Andrew Kopp moving up and back with Scheifele back with Ehlers and Connor. And I imagine this story with the Wheeler injury is going to just add a little bit more going into those Ottawa games next week. But it will have a bit of a different look for the first time in a while for the Winnipeg Jets going into this game tomorrow.
Yeah, so I agree. But that's something we're going to keep an eye on as the Jets go closer to Ottawa. But this Wheeler injury, what it's going to do to the lines, are we going to see some more shuffling? It seemed like we had been settled in with minimal changes the last couple of games. So I think the first power play where Wheeler's in there, I'm kind of not sure what are they going to do. Are they just going to move Kopp up there, move Perreault? I mean, the power play too has been working well also. So I think those are things we're going to be watching tomorrow as we get ready for a Jets road trip. They're heading out east, a lot of 6 p.m. starts, but they'll play against Montreal tomorrow, who we mentioned, missing Carey Price, and now missing Brendan Gallagher as well.
Now, the Jet Oil Tom Fienberg is so awesome. Love it. Yeah, no, he is so much fun, so much energy. And Todd Fertani's there. What about the old man Lee Westwood top 10? I don't mind that. I am not on Lee Westwood. There's been too many disappointments in the past, and to be honest, it's been a revelation as to how well he has played and how close he's been to the winner's circle. Truly one of the great Masters stories. Wouldn't win me any money, but would be if Lee Westwood was able to get into that winner's circle finally after so many disappointments. But I'm looking right now, Lee Westwood 64-1 to win it. 6-1, a very low number for the top 5, which shows that they do believe he has a good chance of contending, and plus 350 on a top 10. So not bad. If you're feeling Lee and you don't want to go all in on the outright, check out those top 5s and top 10s. And again, coolbet.com, all the odds for going forward. Reem, one other sort of a crazy story, and I'll be honest, I never remember the Blue Bombers signing receiver Travis Rudolph. He was a former star of Florida State. And I don't think many people have gone to the Bomber shop and got a Rudolph jersey. And that's probably a good thing because he's been released today by the team. What the issue was, and this is incredibly serious, he has been arrested on first-degree murder and attempted first-degree murder charges earlier. The Bombers quickly officially released Travis Rudolph, and then Darren Cameron also said that the organization was made aware of Travis Rudolph's arrest this morning, and he has subsequently been released. He was signed in December of 2019 after the Bombers won the Grey Cup and did not play in a game for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But pretty horrible story. Not that, doesn't, not a really issue for the Bombers, but The fact of the matter is that, anytime you have your club linked to such a horrible series of charges, it is serious, but certainly not a mainstay. But man, just what a bizarre story to get over the wire today when it comes to the Bombers, Reem.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, sorry I got interrupted at home during that.
Let me guess. Facebook Marketplace? Kijiji?
I think my wife thought it was. The doorbell rang. It was just an Amazon delivery. She's like, "Are you expecting someone?" I'm like, "No, there's probably just they ring the doorbell and leave the package at the door." So that's what it was. But
maybe an unboxing coming up.
Yeah. Do you want me to go? Should I go get it?
I've got a box here, Reem.
Okay. What's in it?
Let's see. This is going to be a great way to finish up the show today. Yeah, no doubt. Not surprising that was the decision made very, very quickly. And who knows whether this guy, was even going to come with us or what the story was. But and another box in here. I've got another box inside it. Now, This might be. Whoa. Oh, I think this is the selfie stick, Reem. Yeah, you know what? Remus has given me a lot of tips on things that I should buy as we become YouTubers and internet guys. And so I've got it. And apparently this one has some sort of like a remote control on it. So anyways, we'll have to learn on that. But my videos, a tripod, listen, we did not cheap out on this one. This is an elite selfie stick. I believe there is. That would be this thing right here. So anyways, just the next time we head out to Not Autocorp or Boston Pizza or Royal Sports or DQ to do one of our little promos, we'll be set to go, and it'll look even better. Do you know what it is? I tell you what, we're getting pretty late. Why don't you save that for tomorrow? We'll do occasional unboxings. Now, I'm just gonna need to buy some stuff on Amazon to get us going. Man, just an amazing crowd. People are fired up.
The viewers shot up once you started opening that.
How did people know? They just had a sense. Oh my God, I think something might be going down on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Hustler's got an Amazon box, and Remus is getting a Facebook delivery right now. Wow. Oh, man, this is good stuff. Hey, listen, big show tomorrow. We're going to continue all of our discussions on the upcoming NHL Trade Deadline with ESPN's Greg Wyshynski. We can talk to him on some of the top 10 lists that ESPN put out. And Ken Weeb's going to join us as well. We'll get the latest on the Winnipeg Jets before, of course, tomorrow's game against the Montreal Canadiens, which is a 6 o'clock start. Some other exciting news we'll talk about tomorrow, which I'm very much looking forward to. And then, of course, Friday, getting ready for the weekend, Masters round 2. This has been a very busy but a very fun week, and having Wish and Weber on tomorrow with a lot of hockey and a bit of golf talk should make for a great day one of the Masters and game day for the Winnipeg Jets here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh yeah, we're leading up to the trade deadline. When are we going to start seeing deals? I remember the last couple of years, like James Duthie'd be on the weekend, be like, "No, guys, save it for Monday. We need to have something for a trade center." And we thought maybe we would see some early deals for the Canadian teams because of the quarantine. We haven't seen that. I think someone's going to ramp up. They're starting to sit guys. As you said, Taylor Hall was a healthy scratch the other day. We're expecting him to get dealt. So it'll be fun talking to Wish. He's got his lists on ESPN and always stuff about what the U.S. teams are doing.
Wow, Jet Oil Tom dropped a $5 in the super chat just for the unboxing vid.
Yeah.
We may take collections to do that and just buy more stuff to unbox them on the program. And somebody's saying we need a new bar in the background. I will do that. Shout out to Dave Patrician, though. He gave me a few nice backgrounds. This has been a good one that we've used. We may have to take the show to Augusta tomorrow. Maybe a nice Masters scene in the background like I did on the Cool Bet show this morning. I don't know. We'll see it. But anyways, folks, if you're with us right now, do us a favor, hammer that thumbs up button. The like certainly helps. If you're watching it on a mobile, you just have to close the chat and then hit that. We do appreciate all the support, and continue to tell your friends, let people know how they can download a podcast, how they can watch us live every day, and keep on those feedback to all of our social channels. And a special thanks to everybody, Reem, that went out and took advantage of Nick and Nikki's very generous offer. I think there was a lot of people hammering blizzards last night, part of our friends here that join us every day on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah, we got a ton of tweets and Facebook messages from people who went out to any of their DQs. I think anyone who listens to the show can like rattle them off. DQ Niverville, St. Anne's, DQ Northgate, Polo Park. Nick and Nikki DQ. But we also have so many other great sponsors like Boston Pizza, Real Sports, Not AutoCorp, which now takes they can buy cars in Bitcoin, Huss. They can buy cars in Bitcoin.
Bubba Watson's going to win the Masters. I'm gonna turn that 100-to-1 bet into Bitcoin, and then maybe I'll go over and buy a Tesla from the gang over there. Again, shout out to Breezy Ben, Aikens Lake, all of our sponsors, Cool Bet, and all of you. Remo, we'll get back after it tomorrow, 1 o'clock. It'll be a busy, compact show. Ken Wiebe, Greg Wyshynski, and round 1 of the Masters. I cannot wait. What do you got going on tonight? No Jets game. What are you going to be watching?
Baseball, actually. I'm all in on baseball now. I'm in like 4 fantasy leagues. So I got the MLB app, which is incredible. So I will probably be watching that. I think there's some hockey games on too, but I didn't watch any baseball last year, maybe because of the weird schedule, but I'm very in. There are some good hockey games, Leafs Habs as well, Golden Knights Blues. And, there's a 4 o'clock Oilers Sens game today. That's kind of nice. If you're
I touched on that a little earlier today. Yeah, early game for that. Yeah. A bunch of other games in the NHL. And if you're wondering, and if you're with us live right now, 7th inning, Jays down 2-0 to the Rangers. So you can go check that out as well. All right, Remo, great stuff as always. We got to get these podcasts up. Everyone to joining us today live. We've had great numbers all day long. Thanks to everyone for joining us. As I said, spread the word. We'll be back tomorrow, maybe even unboxing something else before the end of the week. We'll see if anything else arrives. If you save your box for tomorrow, Reem. We gotta have one in the holster.
I might need what's in there, but I could be getting something tomorrow that I could be opening. But
same day delivery. I'll try and make sure we've got something for Friday. A Friday unboxing would be wonderful.
We're like this close, Huss, for hockey card openings too. We're like this close.
Oh my God, we might have to get the Earl of Eli involved in that and do a special stream for it.
We're this close to Winnipeg Sports Talk break. Everyone will chip in and we'll get a box.
Now we're talking. Now you've got me legitimately excited on that.
We're so close. Guys, everyone pick a team.
You got it, folks. Not AutoCorp, Boston Pizza, Winnipeg, the Nick and Nicky DQ, Royal Sports, Breezy, Aikens Lake, Cool Bet. Thanks to you all for joining us. Pods will be up shortly. We appreciate you joining us today. Have a great night. We'll be back for tomorrow. Jets Habs game day, Greg Wyshynski and the upcoming trade deadline, and more right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Have a great night, everyone.
Oh, let me hit the button. Sorry. Bye.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.